And thank you. This is part 2, and we're still talking about the end of times. In the first part, we looked at Luke, this account in Luke, and now we're looking at a parallel example, or rather parallel account in Matthew chapter 24 of the same sequence of events that Jesus enlightens us with about the end of time, what would happen. Now, I'll read from verse 4. Jesus answered, "Watch out that no one deceives you, for many will come in my name, claiming I am the Messiah, and will deceive many. You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but see to it that you are not alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come. Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places. These are the beginning of birth pains." So he's saying all the famines, all the earthquakes, the wars are not the ones that tell us the end has come, but they are the birth pains, the labor pains telling you, oh, something is imminent. Then he said, "You will be handed over to be persecuted and put to death." That's verse 9. "And you will be hated by all nations because of me." Jesus is speaking to his followers, his disciples on the mountain of Olives. So he's giving them a similar account of the end of time, what to expect. At that time, many will turn from the faith and will betray and hate each other. And many false prophets will appear and deceive many. Because of the increase of wickedness, the love of most will grow cold. But the one who stands firm to the end will be saved. The one who stands firm to the end will be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in the whole world as a testimony to all nations. And then the end will come. So everything he said up till now, we started reading from verse 4 to verse 12, are the last days, not the end. So from verse 15, it tells us what's going to happen at the end. So when you see standing, who is the you see? Because when we looked at Luke, I said specifically and clearly, I pointed out that Luke is telling us that Jesus was giving this account of what to expect to his followers. So he wasn't giving it to the world. He was telling them what they would expect and how they should react and what they should do when they see the signs. And the same thing he's doing in Matthew chapter 24. He's saying to his followers, not to the world, not to the people that don't follow him. He's speaking to his followers. He said, when you see standing in the holy place, the abomination that causes desolation. That's a reference to Daniel chapter 9 and chapter 11 and chapter 12. So an abomination that causes desolation. Now that phrase, so many people over spiritualize it, but it's a phrase that even when repeated in Daniel, tells us exactly what it means. And it's the same reference in Revelation when he talks about the fact that the Antichrist, or that is going to rule, the lawless man that is going to rule the world, will demand allegiance to himself by having the mark on their head and on their arms. It's the same thing. It's God's people. When he said the abomination that causes desolation, meaning something that incites God to anger. So this is different from sin, which is transgression of the law. So that already, the laws of God already have to attach to them consequences. So it's just like the laws of the land. It's not because the judge is angry that you are sentenced based on the laws. No, that's just the laws of the land. If you break them, the consequences are written close to them. So the judge just executes judgment. That's what happens for a lot of the sins we commit and the transgressions. Transgressions means you've broken the law. So it's not necessarily because it's God is angry that the judgment in those cases is executed. We receive the consequences of our actions. That's just it. But the abomination that causes desolation is different. It's something that makes God act. It's not even a breaking of the law. It's what makes the whole of heaven react. It causes a swift action. That's the meaning of the abomination that causes desolation. Note the word abomination, meaning doing something that ought not to be done. Causes desolation. Doing something that ought not to be done, that causes God to react in judgment that obliterates the whole planet, to put it in simple, dramatic words. But because in this case, that's what's going to happen. And we looked at Luke, because in the accounts that we looked at Luke, the judgment that came in, because we looked at, in the first part, we looked at Luke chapter 17, where Jesus gave a parallel that the judgment, the days of the coming of the Son of Man, that the days of the second coming of Jesus Christ will be exactly, just as, exactly like the days of Noah and the days of Lot. The judgment that came on the days of Noah was a reaction to the fact that the entire human race, apart from Noah and his family, were corrupted. Evil had taken over rule of God's creation. Something that ought not happen had happened. They were corrupted. The entire world was corrupted. The times of Sodom and Gomorrah, evil had taken over Sodom and Gomorrah. It was commonplace. The law of the land was evil. The people had been taken over by evil. An abomination had happened. God's creation had completely been possessed by evil. And it caused a desolation. God had to get up and do something. Not get up. He doesn't need to get up. He's God. He sits on his throne. But it's a reaction to a situation. It causes, the abomination causes the reaction. That's the meaning of abomination that causes desolation. So don't get too, because I know us Christians, we get excited by terms and we don't try to understand them. As I always say, never forget the purpose of the Bible was always to communicate. Always. If you remember that all the time, you'll know that nothing is meant to be hidden from you that is already written, except it is written that it is to be hidden. And then you have clarity. So we go back to Matthew that we are looking at, about the same account. He said, so when you see standing in the holy place, the place that belongs to God, in the holy place. He wasn't referring to a holy place. Jesus would only refer to a holy place, speaking to a Jewish audience of his followers, if the holiness is understood as a consecration to Yeduvave. So he wouldn't call it a holy place if it wasn't a place meant to be consecrated to Yeduvave. And we will look at this later on. In the Old Testament account of this, it was, very briefly, I'll just mention this. The abominations that caused desolation were the times that the temple of Yeduvave, of Yahweh in Israel, were had an idol erected, so the temple was reconsecrated to the worship of evil spirits. And it caused desolation. It caused God to react. In extra biblical accounts of some of this, we discover that God raised up some people to actually fight wars that caused massive dissolution, massive deaths, but brought back the honor of the temple. But in this same account, because if you go back to my book, which will soon be released on the vision, I talk about timings. That's his vision. That's the name of the book. I'll tell you when it's released. I talk about timings, and I talk about the sequence of events that we find out that the same thing prophesied with the same words replay themselves through history. As Solomon said, what has been will be again. That's King Solomon's words in Ecclesiastes. What has been will be again. The past will be called to account. It will be replayed till the final time the words and those prophecies that were spoken, the final time where they will take place, because the sequence of events that necessitated those words being spoken have been fulfilled completely. But till the sequence of events stop replaying themselves, those words will still continually be effectual in those circumstances anytime they come up in history. So you find that this desolation that causes abomination, that causes desolation, it has happened in the past. And those are the examples Jesus gave us in Luke chapter 17. And there are many other examples that we have been seen even after the example of Lot and Noah in the scriptures, based on the prophecy of Daniel. But this one is the Lord Jesus telling us this is the final one that will happen. Of these same words, the abomination that causes desolation happening. And the beauty of having a repeat of prophecy is that we know the certainty of those words. They will follow the exact same pattern as they did in the past. That's what Jesus was telling them. That's what he repeatedly told them. And that's what we have seen in history. Prophecy will always come to pass anytime the set of events that necessitated those words being spoken occur anytime in the history of mankind. Those prophecies will happen. Those words will take effect till the end, when it's no longer necessary. And this is the account of the end, when it will no longer be necessary after this, that Jesus is giving to us. So this sequence of events is definite. It said, I'll read again, Matthew chapter 24 from verse 25. So when you see standing in the holy place, not the holy place, the abomination, something that ought not be done, something that ought not be there, something that ought not happen. Ought not the word I used. Something that ought not be there, being there. Standing in the holy place, the abomination that causes desolation. It causes the end. It triggers the end. Spoken of through the prophet Daniel, let the reader understand. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. That's why I told you that you should take note of what he said in Luke. Because let's go back to Luke chapter 17. This is a study, so you need your Bible to be able to follow. He said in Luke chapter 20, Okay, Luke chapter 30 said, it will be just like this on the day the Son of Man is revealed. On that day, no one who is on the housetop with possessions inside should go down to get them. Likewise, no one in the field should go back for anything. Remember Lot's wife. Whoever tries to keep their life will lose it, and whoever loses their life will preserve it. I tell you, on that night, two people will be in one bed, one will be taken and the other left. Two women will be grinding grain together, one will be taken and the other left. Where, Lord? They asked. So where there is a dead body, there the vultures will gather. He did not say he would take them to heaven at that point. He said he will be in the sky. And he said he will take a few people, a select people, while he's there in the sky, to be gathered to himself. That's what it means. Where there is a dead body, there the vultures will gather. But in Matthew, let's go back to the Matthew that we're looking at. So he said, when the abomination that is standing in the holy place, the abomination that causes desolation is standing in the holy place. He said, those who are in Judea should flee to the mountains. He said, run to the mountains. He's specific, the mountains. And let no one on the housetop go back to take anything out of the house. Let no one in the field go back to get their cloak. How dreadful. Why dreadful? Because it's the same account. He said, let no one in the housetop go back to take anything out of the house. Let no one in the field go back to get their cloak. How dreadful it will be in those days for pregnant women and nursing mothers. Pray that your flight will not take place in winter or on the Sabbath, meaning the day of your running away. For then there will be great distress unequaled from the beginning of the world until now, and never to be equaled again. Praise God. Remember, he's speaking to his disciples. And he said in verse 22, if those days had not been cut short, no one would survive. But for the sake of the elect, those days will be shortened. At that time, if anyone says to you, look, here is the Messiah, or there he is, do not believe it. This is the same account, a similar account that he's giving, a similar words he used in Luke chapter 17, when he said, when someone says, there's the Messiah, don't go there, because when the Son of Man comes, everybody will see him. He said, for false messiahs and false prophets will appear and perform great signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect. He's speaking to his disciples. See, I have told you ahead of time. Then he continues, verse 26. If anyone says to you, there he is out in the wilderness, do not go out. Here he is in the inner rooms, do not believe it. For as lightning, that's what I was referring to, that he spoke about in Luke chapter 17. For as a lightning that comes from the east is visible even in the west, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. Wherever there is a carcass, there the vultures will gather. Then he continues, verse 29. Immediately after the distress of those days, take note of the tenses. Immediately after the distress of those days. So he's saying, I'll pause here because I need to make this very clear, because I have roughly about 10 minutes to go. Immediately after the distress of those days. So he's saying that when he comes, there is distress. But at the same time, where there is a carcass, there the vultures will gather. There will be a rapture. There will be a taking of a number of people. At the same time, there is a distress. He said, immediately after the distress of those days, the sun will be darkened and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from the sky and the heavenly bodies will be shaken. There will be the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. Then all the peoples of earth will mourn when they see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he will send his angels with a loud trumpet call, and they will gather his elect from the four winds, from one end of the heavens to the other. Now learn this lesson from the fig tree. As soon as its twigs get tender and its leaves come out, you know that summer is near. Meaning, as long as you see these signs, you know that summer is near. Even so, when you see these things, you will see them with your optical eyes. You will know that it is near, right at the door. I tell you, this generation, I have explained the word this generation in my some of my tapes before. He said this generation will certainly not pass away until all these things have happened. He's speaking to his followers at this time, and he's talking in particular about the generation of his believers. He said, heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away. I'll give you a summary just so that we can explain, because all this in Matthew is explained in detail. The whole sequence is in Revelation. It's uncannily detailed and uncannily sequential, following the exact sequence of what Jesus said in Matthew chapter 24 that we just read. So I'll summarize. The point is this: the second coming of Jesus Christ is after the temple has been desecrated, the most holy place. The heart of God's people has been taken over, or rather, the heart of his worship has been taken over, not his people, because many of his people will resist him, but the heart of his worship has been taken over by evil, the same way it was in the time of Noah, where the people were completely taken over by the rule of evil before the flood came. The same way was in the time of Lot. The people were completely taken over, and the worship of the true God of Yehovah was replaced by the worship of evil. That's when the salvation of God's people will happen, because the judgment is at that same time. They are removed to avoid the judgment. They are not removed to avoid the rule of evil. So Noah lived in that evil condition till the moment judgment was about to happen. Lot lived on the earth in Sodom and Gomorrah till the moment the destruction by fire and brimstone was supposed to happen. And this is what Jesus emphasized in Luke chapter 17. And in Matthew that we just read, he's telling us ahead of time that his coming in the sky will bring distress on the earth. Now, the first set of distresses that he's going to bring will be the signs to let us know he's about to take us. But everybody will see that he has come. There will be lightning. Its coming is not the start of the reign of evil, to remove us from the reign of evil. His coming is to remove us from the judgment. So the hardship and the that will be experienced as a result of standing for God in the midst of an evil world, a world completely taken over by evil, those hardships that will be experienced by the elect, will be experienced by God's people, the followers of Jesus Christ. His disciples will experience the hardship that comes standing for God in the midst of a generation and a people and a world taken over completely by evil, that evil rules. Evil rules. And the reason why the people will be taken, God's people will be taken, is when the abomination has gotten to the point that desolation was the next step. It's on the same day that desolation starts, that God's people are taken. Yes, the desolation meaning the destruction of the earth, not the tribulation. I know there are other scriptures like in Thessalonians, which I have studied. You have to look at what I have to say about those in Thessalonians and the accounts in Daniel. But all the accounts in Daniel are very, very clear about the fact that, for example, in Daniel chapter 2, or rather, let me just read Daniel chapter 8, verse 24. He said, he will become, that's the lawless man. Verse 23, let's read it from verse 23. It talks about the man that is going to reign, the Antichrist or the beast or whatever you want to call him, but he is the lawless man, the one that, the abomination that takes over the rule of God from the earth. He said, in the latter days, Daniel chapter 8, verse 23, in the latter part of their reign, when rebels have become completely wicked, a fierce-looking king, a master of intrigue, he's a smooth player, will arise. So he's not necessarily looking fierce. He's bold. That's what it means. He's bold, and he understands riddles. He's manipulative. He's cunning. He will become very strong, but not by his own power. He's fueled by an evil force. He will cause astounding devastation and will succeed in whatever he does. The devastation is the devastation of God's people, because he continues. He will destroy those who are mighty, the holy people. It is a time where it will not be good, it will not be favorable to be a Christian that stands for Christ. He will cause deceit to prosper, and he will consider himself superior. When they feel secure, he will destroy many and take his stand against the prince of princes. He will take his stand in God's place, in the place of the Messiah. He is the Antichrist. Yet he will be destroyed, but not by human power. So it's not by Christians going to war that they destroy the Antichrist. It's not by military power. It's by the coming of the Son of God. He said, but they will be destroyed, but not by human power. It will be the force of heaven standing up against the abomination. So the abomination triggers a desolation. This is the same sequence of events. It has happened several times in history, and it will happen at the final time when the full end of the earth comes. And it's the same sequence you can find in Daniel chapter 12 of events that you can find in Daniel chapter 12. But this is just a summary, but an important summary, because the Lord put it in my heart to share it. Now, I am very open to questions, and I am very open to discussions. And because it is the Spirit of God, the Spirit of Christ, that inspires the prophets. And when I see things in the scriptures, I am grateful. So these are the things that I believe the Spirit of God wanted me to share. And thank you for listening. This is not to inspire fear. What you need to do is know that God tells us things ahead of time so that we can prepare, not so that we can be afraid. He tells us so that we can position ourselves rightly. He said, those who know their God shall be strong and do exploits. The phrase used, do exploits, there, it means that they will stand strong in their faith and they can resist the Antichrist. He said, those who know their God. And the word know their God is not about casual knowledge, it's about intimate knowledge. So I want to encourage you, know your God. Let knowing your God be your priority. Let knowing your God be your priority, your number one priority before doing anything for him. Know your God. Know him intimately. Know his person. Know his character. Develop a love for him. Don't just work for him. Because we always think he's more after our labor. Our labor is vital, but he's more after us. He died for us. He wants your heart. He wants your soul. He wants your strength. He wants us first before he wants anything else. So know your God. And you'll be able to stand. And you won't be the only one. Because his grace is sufficient for us. And he said, lo, Jesus said when he was leaving the earth, I am with you always, even till the end of the age. God bless you. I'm Deborah.